welcome back to the Security Conversations podcast. A guest that needs no introduction. Shane Huntley is the director of Google's Threat Analysis Group, TAG. First of all, what is TAG and what do you do over there?
Thanks, Ryan. So Google's Threat Analysis Group is the part of Google that looks into serious threat actors coming against Google and our users and disrupts them to try and keep users safe. So we've been doing this for about 12 years, and we look at a range of different threat actors. Government-backed threat actors are a huge part of our work. We've also expanded into looking at disinformation threat actors and also serious cybercrime because they're a growing threat for us as well. But our job is to sort of really understand the enemy and then do something about it.
And who is the enemy? Anyone doing anything malicious against Google users? Anyone doing anything malicious against the computing ecosystem that you touch? Help me understand, specifically what is the TAG mission and focus? And in a little bit, how does it differ from what Project Zero is doing and some of the other security units coming out of Google? Where is the separation there?
Yeah, so I think at Google, organization charts are more of a guidance than a hard barrier anyway. But I suppose what we really focus on is kind of understanding the people that could come against our users and understanding how it can really affect our products and how we can, and also the places where we can do something about it. It's sort of like a moot point to a little degree about what the difference is between the entire ecosystem and Google users, because there's not that many people who don't use Google in some form. So really to secure Google users, you have to kind of secure the entire internet.
Now I was going to say, where do people see your work? Where is the output? Where's the final output for the average end user one, or for enterprise, or the people you're protecting? Where do they see it, or do they even see it? Is it a lot of magic in the background protecting them before they even know?
Yeah.
Help me understand where TAG fits.
Yeah. So I think there's a couple of missions here. What we use of our understanding kind of tries to protect users in a number of ways, right? So Google was formed in 2010, just after Google had the Aurora incident from China, where Google itself was targeted by Chinese government.
So TAG was formed as a result of the Aurora hack.
Yes, it was formed directly after that, and really kind of formed out of the incident response and the threat work that was being done during Aurora. So that was our biggest goal. When I joined TAG at that early date in 2010, just after Aurora, that was our number one goal. It still is, right? Stop Google getting hacked by government actors, and that still is our sort of number one mission. But over time, we sort of expanded that mission as well, because we can't just defend against Google itself getting hacked against these actors. We also see these actors coming after our users on Gmail and other platforms. We also see them doing disinformation. We also see the wider ecosystem. There's Android. So we really have expanded out this sort of understanding of protections. So the places you see this protection is for a long time, we were sort of behind the scenes, right? We do a bit more of this blogging and podcasting or whatever now to expose stuff, but we were sort of happy being in the background in the past, right? So our primary goal was to work out what the threat actors were doing and then build the protections. So and it's one of the advantages of being sort of a platform threat team like this. And sort of my goal isn't to I don't have to rely on writing some blog to get things fixed. If I see how the Iranian government is getting past the spam filters on Gmail, I work directly with the spam team to actually help get those blocks. And that's where most of our work's going, to actually get those direct protections in. We also have consumer-facing protections where we sort of do warnings, warning users they're the target of government-backed threats. We do some publishing of information. But we also do direct protections as well. There's actually things in my team where our knowledge and both the technical systems we build, but also the intelligence directly feeds into products to make sure that more attacks are blocked by Gmail, to make sure things are booted off the Play Store, and takedowns we're doing with YouTube around coordinated inauthentic behavior. So all of those things are a big range of stuff. When we did our planning session and looked at all the different outputs of TAG, it wasn't one or two things. It really went to a lot of different places in the company.
So you've got your solid long time background in this space, this kind of nation state type adversary things. Can we talk a little bit about your own background? Because you come out of an offensive security background as well. I mean, some of it might still be classified. Can you talk a little bit about your own entry into this? Did you join Google pre-TAG, or did you join Google because of TAG post Aurora? Help me understand your little bit of your background and how you made the the pathway into Silicon Valley?
Sure, sure. So, like, my background, like, I was a teenage hacker type, and always into this sort of security stuff from a very, very young age. I did some time in the Australian military. Did some work in sort of like cyber intelligence and sort of like defensive projects there. But then for a while after I left the military, I worked in Australian intelligence, and I worked on the sort of cyber side of things.
What does that even mean? Like I work
I'm
for
trying to be careful
intelligence and the
here, right? I think
cyber
that
things, the side
you're
of
being more open about that now, but like my title was the technical director of network exploitation technologies. So
right. No, no, I asked this because it's a weird thing, and just for conversation's sake, it's very strange how in the West and in the US here specifically, like we idolize you guys, the guys who come out of a military background and the guys who've put in time, doing these things. Yet, if you did this in another country and you're somehow, and in Israel, for instance, every startup comes out says they're Unity, the 200, the elite people. So people kind of glom onto this kind of association with .gov sector as a trophy to hold up. Do you view it that way?
that's a really interesting question. I think I don't.
Like I worked at Kaspersky years ago.
Yeah.
And you know the Kaspersky connection, right? It's like the Kaspersky controversy, right? It's like if you have any association at all with the government in the past, you're suddenly besmirched forever, but it doesn't affect us. Like, so how?
Yeah, it does sometimes, right? I think people often get tarred with different parts of things, right? So I think about this a lot when I've been building the team, actually. I think there is like great people that have a big variety of backgrounds. I think there are some very good people that have done government service and come from that place, and I think I bring some decent skills and have done all right here. But I don't think it's the only place to get that. I think actually one of the things I've tried to do very much building Tag is actually to try and bring a range of people. So I've got people from not just sort of Western intelligence. There's actually a very few of us overall compared to most threat teams, but bringing in like new graduates, people from an engineering background, people from a range of countries, and Tag.
How big is Tag?
Tag's about 50 people, and we're spread across
Okay.
a presence US, Canada, and Zurich, and in Switzerland as our primary locations, but expanding to Australia later in the year.
Yeah, I bring that up because it feels like there's a lot of security researchers doing offensive work for governments in legitimate places, counterintelligence, counter terrorism in some crazy places. We've also had the story recently about ex-NSA hackers who end up in Dubai and then they end up getting punished. And so I'm just curious, when you're hiring people and you're building a team and so on, are those types of folks like red flaggish? Are you thinking along the lines of like ethics and perils? Because we're now threat intel brokers, right? Like you're the threat intel guy. You're an information broker. You're like a fourth party collector playing in this game anywhere, right? Do you worry about the ethics and perils of that stuff at all?
I think ethics is a huge part of this, and we always have to focus very much on the ethical side of things. And I think part of hiring anybody and like finding who's a good fit for the team is also very much about sort of like making sure that their ethics are aligned with what we're trying to do, that you're hiring people that you can trust, and also that from a point of view of like what they want to do is in like conjunction with what the team needs to do. So there's many people that aren't a great fit for Tag, but like I hire people that I feel I can trust, that are able to do this mission and are signed on to this mission, right? And I believe in our mission, right? I'm not saying it's the only mission, but our mission of actually defending this stuff and trying to make things safer by killing exploits and actually countering all these threats, I think is a valid mission, even if it's other people have other missions and other ways of seeing it.
From 2009, the creation of Tag to now, how have you seen like I hate to use the word evolution, but like this gradual visibility into nation state operations? We know a lot more than we knew back then. Aurora was the singular event that made everyone like, hair and the neck stand up. Today, there's 5 reports every week on APT activity hitting big companies, right? So volume seems to have increased, visibility seems to have increased. We'll have a conversation about like zero-day discovery in the wild and why we're better at that. But when you looked at like your career in Tag over the years, because you're more connected and you have the telemetry to really tell us where we're going, have things gotten better? Have things gotten progressively worse? Where are we in the ecosystem as like our ability to defend ourselves from these apex adversaries?
Wow, there's a lot there. I'd say there's been a constant evolution, right? So I think when Aurora came out, it was a really big deal that sort of Google actually said that they had the incident, and there was 20 other companies, and not a single other one came forward there at that time too. So like at that time, this was all hush hush, and we weren't talking about it, and actors were able to do whatever they want because everyone was like too scared to talk about it. So
Right.
now,
There
like
used to
with
be a
all this
throwaway line
legislation,
about like some targeted attack happening. It's like limited targeted attacks we've seen. That was the extent of what would be an APT report back in the day, right?
yeah. And it's like, but then it's evolved over time, and people when Tag started were going like, why does Google have a team that like is looking at government-backed threats? And like we get questions on that. But now fast forward to 2022, like my biggest question is Google doing enough against government-backed threats? We should be doing more about this. So we have seen this evolution of the defensive side has become more in the open. As to whether we're actually doing better against it, I think we are, but I think this is a cat and mouse game too, right? The attackers are also getting better. We've also seen this publicity, and everybody's seeing how successful this is from the big actors, is causing this sort of like other countries getting into it. Like if you look at a map of the world, which we have about which countries we've seen threat activity from, there's not that many countries that don't have at least one entry in our database now. So we are seeing this go down to more and more different countries, and also more agencies within countries. And we're also seeing this troubling sort of like commodification of, companies selling this capability as to sort of, in some cases, repressive regimes, or
Yeah, I want to get
don't
into
want to have
that
these
as well.
capabilities doing this. And that's one of the biggest concerns.